Hello everyone. This is Dr. D. Rajalakshmi, Associate Professor in Computer Science and Engineering Department of RMD Engineering College. Come, let's see about generic programming in Java. Why generics? What is generics? Generic programming enables the programmer to create classes, interfaces, and methods that automatically works with all types of data, such as integer, string, float, and etc. It has expanded the ability to reuse the code safely and easily. We have advantages, three types of main advantages of Java generics. The very first advantage is type safety. We can hold only a single type of objects in generics. It doesn't allow to store other objects. The second advantage is typecasting is not required. There is no need to typecast the object. Compile time checking is the third advantage. It is checked at compile time, so problem will not occur at runtime. What problems does generics solve? What is the purpose of using generics? We will be getting problems like compiler is unable to verify types, assignment must have typecasting, class cost exception can occur during runtime. These kind of problems can be rectified or can be avoided using generics. Generic class. What is generic class? A generic class is a class with one or more type variables. Generic means parameterized types. Parameterized types enables to create classes, interfaces, and methods in which the type of data upon which they operate is specified as a parameter. Class, interface, or method that operates on a parameterized type is called generic, as in generic class or generic method. The syntax for declaring a generic class. This is the syntax for declaring a generic class. Class, class name, within angle brackets have to mention the type parameter list. And this is the syntax for declaring a reference to a generic class. Class name, then within angle brackets have to specify the type argument list. Then variable name, which is equal to new class name within angle brackets type argument list. Then within parenthesis, we have to give the constant argument list semicolon. This is the syntax for declaring a reference to a generic class. Generic class with multiple type of parameters is also possible. It is possible to declare more than one type parameter in a generic type. To specify two or more type parameters, simply use comma-separated list. This is the syntax for declaring a generic class with two type parameters. Class, class name, within angle brackets, we can mention the type parameters. More than one number of type parameters can also be mentioned here, and that must be separated by a comma. And this is a syntax for declaring a reference to a generic class with the two type parameters. Class name, within angle brackets have to mention the required number of type arguments. Then variable name, which is equal to new class name within angle brackets. Again, we have to mention the type arguments list. Then after that, have to mention the constant argument is semicolon. Now let's see about the generic methods. It is possible to declare a generic method that uses one or more type parameters of its own. The scope of arguments is limited to the method where it is declared. It allows static as well as non-static method. This is the syntax of generic method. So before representing or giving the return type, we have to mention the type parameter within angle brackets. Then we can give the return type, then method name, within parentheses, the parameters can be mentioned. Then between the open and close flower bracket, we can give the body, we can define body of the generic method. Bounded types. In Java generics, it is possible to set restrictions on the type that will be allowed to pass to our type parameter. This is done with the help of extends keyword when specifying type parameter. This is the syntax. T extends number. Here we have taken number class. It can be any wrapper class name. This specifies that T can be only be replaced by number class data itself or any of its subclass. Restrictions and limitations on generics. There are few restrictions that you need to keep in mind when using generics. The very first restriction is type parameters cannot be instantiated. It is not possible to create an instance of a type parameter. For example, consider this class. Name of the class is gen. Here, within the constructor of this class, we are we are trying to create an object for t, where t is the type parameter, but it is illegal. The second restriction is restrictions on static members. No static member can use a type parameter declared by the enclosing class. It's not possible. Here, in this example, both the static members of this class are illegal. The third restriction is generic array restrictions. There are two important generic restrictions that apply to arrays. First, you cannot instantiate an array whose element type is a type parameter. Second, you cannot create an array of type-specific generic references. Now, the fourth restriction is generic exception restriction. A generic class cannot extend throwable. This means that you cannot create generic exception classes. Thank you.